When you are excited about what you're doing and you're able to show up in your most authentic way, and when you are aligning with what you want more of in your life, the success will follow. And I think that's just a lesson that I've been getting pretty hard lately is one, it's okay that even when things look great, feel great in the moment, reflecting back and the high sometimes has the low attached to it. Feel the feels. So I recently experienced a first as an entrepreneur, which doesn't, I mean, it happens a lot, but not in this sense. So Chase, the interior designer that I primarily work with on our properties, had explained to me this phenomena of pouring everything he had into projects because typically he moves into a space. I mean, and it just requires all of his attention, all of his focus for, a set period of time. And it's taking all of his creative energy, all of his attention. And it's this high of being able to focus in on a task or a job or a project, a mission. And then it's this rush once it's all completed. You get to soak in your work, you get to experience it, and then you're done. He leaves the project, the photographer comes in, we get it listed on Airbnb, and he may or may not ever be in that property again. And he had explained this to me of how it's just such a high, and then immediately almost this funk or this grief of it being over because it was all consuming and then it was gone. And I had never experienced that until after our Athens mini retreat. So, you guys, if you've been listening to the podcast at all, I have shared my love hate relationship with my family spending 3 months in Texas away from home this year. And so, kind of timeline for those of you who aren't super familiar, or a refresher for those of you who are, we got information from the military that John was going to need to go and spend 3 months in Texas. So, February to pretty much May, we were there. And I had already done our entire schedule for 2025 for our business. So I knew that our Athens mini retreat was already on the schedule before Texas was thrown into the mix here. So left for Texas February 1st. I moved the boys and myself back from Texas April 14th. And our Athens mini retreat, where we had a little over 100 of our clients come in from all over the world, to Athens, Georgia, where we hosted just a community event, training, all of the things. So April 14th, I fly back from Texas to Georgia, and the mini retreat, my team flew in April 29th. So right at 14, 15 days in between, and then people came in May 1st. So as you can imagine, moving my family halfway across the country back home and all that that entails with stuff, and then preparing for this event, it was all consuming. John didn't move back until April 26th. So I was solo parenting in there as well. Not necessarily a huge distinction, but definitely one. So all consuming. And for all intents and purposes, the event went so well. We had a great turnout, great feedback from clients, but honestly, it was bigger than my wedding. And so it was pulling off this event and wanting everybody to have a good time and feel seen and loved and learn and just experience our community. Plus, having our entire team in, which is always fun and just life giving most of the time. But I had never experienced what Chase was sharing about the high of being there and being in the moment and just all consuming, and then like snap your finger and it's done. And I felt that right after the event. It was just everything was so consuming that right when it was over, I was talking to my mindset coach, Amy. If you want to hear more about her story and what she does, go back and listen to episode 1. But I was sharing that with her, and she was like, that is what you call grief. Your like body is somewhat mourning the loss of what was. And I wanted to share that with you guys because even when things go how they should, when the project and the goal is achieved and it's successful, like there is still like a flip side of that emotion sometimes. And I had to take a few days to sit with that and process and just feel all the feels. But it led me to reflecting back on my journey because during the mini retreat, somebody asked me, like, what's next for you? You've done the things, what is next? And if you had asked me that a couple of years ago, it would have been an easy answer because I had all of my goals laid out for my business. Certain milestones, certain, financial numbers, certain property numbers, how many I wanted, and what I wanted our life to look like, both of us leaving our 9 to 5s. And what happens when you achieve it? What does that look like? And so many of our clients are high achievers. Your vibe attracts your tribe. I see myself in so many of the people that we work with. And it's completely shifted how I set my goals. And it's been a very good reminder for me to come back once I have achieved them and reflect and celebrate the wins versus just going on to the next achievement, because that is what is so tempting to do. And what I've done for so long, it's like, all right, check the box of the mini retreat, on to the next. We're going to Costa Rica in less than a month, on to the next. And that grief moment for me, I say moment, it was a few days, forced me to look back and reflect on all of the positive that I had done and my team had done and all that we had achieved and the wonderful feedback and the connections, all of the things that I wanted to do for so long. Like that was a huge milestone in our business, being able to bring everyone together and get everybody off Zoom. But sometimes you just have to sit in the pause, and sometimes it doesn't feel great. It feels sad and it feels just like what's next? It almost feels like you have a lack of direction. And so, one of the things that Kristen on my team challenged me to do when I got to feeling that way, and actually this was last year when I was just feeling a bit of lack of direction. I'm not like I'm actively acquiring deals, but most of the time they're coming to me. It's not like I was just wondering, I'm like, I have achieved what I set out to achieve. So how do I, where do I go from here? I want to be content with what I have, but I still want that fire inside of me to try and achieve. And so she challenged me to ask myself and ask John, what do you want more of in your life? This isn't necessarily properties. This isn't necessarily, certain dollar amounts or anything. It's what do you want more of? And what I essentially boiled it down to was I want more fun in my business. I want to have fun with whatever I'm doing, because when I am having fun and enjoying what I'm doing, it shows. So a lot of times this looks like delegating the things that I don't want to do in my business. If it's not a hell yes, then it's a hell no. I'm not saying you don't do the uncomfortable things, but when I'm faced with a choice of where do we go next, I'm choosing the fun option, at least for this year. It's like, okay, I want to work from home more because that is more fun for me. I spent 3 months in Texas away from home. How do I make home happen? I don't record at home, guys, if you're watching the video. That is almost impossible with my 2-year-old and my 4-year-old. But I'm shaping my goals a little bit differently than just the number on the page, the number of properties, the quantitative goals. I'm not doing them that way as much as I am the qualitative. So not the numbers. I want to have more fun, or I want to have more space to learn. That's another thing that a luxury that I am choosing to embrace, of trying new things and seeing where my zone of genius and my unique giftings and talents, where that is going to take me exploring other fun things. Of course, we're still acquiring properties. Of course, we're still coaching and doing that. I'm just choosing to do it in a way that is more fun and building things that bring me joy instead of just focusing on the numbers. Somebody asked me, all right, well, what markets are you actively looking? What markets are you like going after and acquiring? And I think the difference between where I was when I started to where we are now is I was in that grind, just constantly scouring Zillow, constantly looking at markets, constantly just trying to find the next without necessarily looking back and saying, where I am now is where I really hoped I would be a little while. More of a stop and smell the roses type perspective, guys. And I mean, frankly, I can say I've earned it because I worked my tail off to get here. But for those of you high achieving folks out there, the purpose of this episode is for me to encourage you to stop and smell the roses a little bit. And you don't have to wait until you get to a point where you deem that you've done it all and achieved what you set out to achieve to ask yourself what you want. Build your business around the things that you want more of. You don't need to necessarily follow a specific formula or a specific, well, this is how this person achieved this, so I have to go exact the same way. When you are excited about what you're doing and you're able to show up in your most authentic way, and when you are aligning with what you want more of in your life, the success will follow. And I think that's just a lesson that I've been getting pretty hard lately is, one, it's okay that even when things look great, feel great in the moment, reflecting back, and the high sometimes has the low attached to it. Feel the feels. I don't like feeling the feels. I hate crying. I hate feeling the feels. It's easier to move on to the next, but sometimes that isn't the best. That isn't the best. I don't know how else to say that. And sometimes you just got to stop and smell the roses along the way. So just a little bit of a musing for you guys. And I hope that you learn that lesson a little bit faster than I did.